Oh, Asmongold gave us like a quick video of his experience. This is a summary of like his experience at the media tour, basically.
Obviously, we were able to play Endwalker, and we got a chance to log on. I don't know how this happened, but my character that they gave me for Endwalker is a female Lalafell. I think Rich put him up to it. I went to Charlian, and the first thing that I did was I wanted to go to, like in the cinematic where they're like, she's holding that bucket, it's like this, and it's pouring out all the water. The first thing I wanted to do is go and see, like, where's this water coming from? How's this happening, right? Like, what is this? We got together in a group, and we did one of the dungeons. These dungeons are much more mechanically invested, and I think also they have a degree of mechanics that are, what's the word for it, dynamic. It's not like it does the exact same thing every single time. Like, for example, there's one boss where it spawns a bunch of illusions, and you have to go to the illusion that is like not doing an emote, basically. And if you don't do that, all the other illusions in the room blow up. And of course, like, it's the only place where you don't get blown up is
Oh, spoilers!
The one that doesn't do
He gets so much joy out of killing mosquitoes.
And I felt like Endwalker. It felt to me that the responsiveness of the game and like the animations were a lot cleaner, and they were more responsive. So like, like the delay that you would have whenever you hit a button and then the thing happens, that delay was a lot smaller whenever I was playing Endwalker.
I think it's because he's not in like the real world of that sounds weird to say real world. He's not in like an actual like server with like a bunch of people all in it. It's like a test server that all the content creators just go in, and it's only like what, 20 people in it, so of course everything's gonna run smoother, right? But I mean, if they did anything to make it better, like what Asmon's saying, then that's cool. That would be cool.
I think the areas looked great. I mean, it definitely, the most recent expansion I've done so far is like the very beginning of Stormblood, right, where I just first load in, and Heaven's Ward. It was a pretty big improvement in terms of graphics and quality.
Wait, he's in Stormblood right now? He's where I am. He said Stormblood. After Stormblood's Shadowbringers. Oh, he's hella behind too. He's like where I am. He must be getting spoiled with the story by going to the media tour.
But it's not that they did say that, like, they emphasized this a million times, right? Is that it's not the end of the game, because a lot of people, it's like, okay, you're ending the big saga that's been going on for like 8 years here, and also on top of that, it's called Endwalker. Like, is the game ending, right? A lot of people are wondering this. It's not. Of course, they're not going to stop making the game because it's just massively successful and a lot of people play it and it makes them a lot of money. Nobody ever messages me at the end of the run asking me to follow them on Instagram, and it's a guy. There's no
Does that really happen on a stream?
I just get to play the game and then I leave. It's amazing. So yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was actually very well designed.
Okay, I get it.
Also, one thing with the trust system.
He's saying like it's beautiful because at the media tour, like there's no one no one bothering him basically. And when he goes into this is a terrible freeze frame for Asmongold, but when he goes into dungeons and stuff, people just like advertise their Instagram and it's a guy.
Obviously, I tried out Reaper a little bit. I didn't really even figure out all the rotations and everything because I had to like set my keybinds and everything. But I do plan on getting Dragoon up to 80.
He's a Dragoon main?
Play it whenever it comes out. Reaper and...
I actually don't know what class he's playing or job.
Anyway.
So he plays Dark Knight and Warrior. Gotcha. But he did say he wants to have Dragoon to level 80. Yeah, I feel like when you're new, you have like a small handful of jobs that you want to definitely play. And then make those 80 first before anything else. And then you'll get into all the other stuff later.
We're kind of new to the community, right? I played Final Fantasy like probably 500 hours at this point, like probably more than that. I'll put this into perspective because I know that it could sound bad, especially the way that I'm kind of framing it, but I don't really think it's fundamentally bad. So many times whenever, and this is I think something that's pretty common with like Warcraft, and I think there's other companies that do the same thing, many gaming companies do the same thing, they will ask you to give them the questions ahead of time, so they know
how to answer it.
This is a two-pronged thing, right? This is multi-purpose. One purpose is obviously so that they're able to filter out any questions that could be that could make them look bad. Obviously, like, why didn't you do this? And they don't have a good answer for it because it's just something stupid to begin with. And so, like, yes, obviously it's so they can kind of, to a certain degree, craft a narrative, but it's also so they can make sure that the time that they invest in the interview is going to be optimized for both themselves and also the audience, which is what the interview is really for. So, like, I understand why different developers and people want to have the questions ahead of time, and I think that logically it makes sense, but there is something to be said, and I prefer, personally, an organic interview. I prefer an interview where I can just go in, ask them whatever I want to ask them, and
it's like a live setting.
Like, they didn't even really say like any guardrails. They were like, yeah, just talk about whatever you want to talk about. That's pretty much about it.
It ended up being a very like casual conversation when I watched it.
A little bit over an
I was
hour.
like, whoa.
And
they're like chilling with each other. They're friends.
Like we asked, like, if you wrote down how many words like our questions were, like each question was like this big, and then like each answer that he gave us was like this big, right? So the fact that like she was able to translate all of that was really impressive.
I was saying,
and as somebody who I'm not bilingual, I'm not multilingual, I only speak American here. So to me, I think that's impressive, just fundamentally. Now the reason
it is like really impressive, and it sucks that some of us only know one language. Like, okay, I know only English, but when I was living in the Philippines, I could understand people speaking Tagalog when I was living there, but I didn't speak it because I'm not Filipino. I don't have Filipino blood or anything, and my parents aren't Filipino. It's very normal for people in Europe to have more than one language. I remember when I went to Switzerland, a guy looked at me very weirdly because he was so shocked I only knew one language. He's like, you don't know Italian? I'm like, no. You don't know French? I'm like, no. And he's like, you don't know German? No. He's like, oh yeah. Yeah, people in Europe know a lot. Like, they know at least 2 or more.
So we were able to ask him a lot of questions about just like in general MMOs, and I think that it's really good and it's refreshing to hear like developers, and this is one of the biggest takeaways I had from the interview, is that it was really refreshing to hear developers and game designers talking about other games that they play, and also having some of the same thoughts and frustrations that players do. Because I think like there's been a problem, and this is especially true. I feel like this has been especially true with like a lot of Western game development, and I'm not really sure if it's a Western game development exclusive problem. It could be happening more in other places too. Like,
I feel like I know what he's gonna say,
etc. Right, South American. But I know that for what I see a lot is there's been like a growing resentment between the players and the developers, where it's like Battle for Azeroth, I made the joke, right, is not between Horde and Alliance or Horde and Alliance versus N'Zoth. It's between the players and the developers. Like, this is the worst type of interaction to have. This is something that's happened many times whenever you have developers that are trying to introduce some form of ideology into the game. We see this a lot now with Warcraft, but we've seen it with plenty of other things as well. And it's just it's incredibly frustrating to see. And I think it's really nice to see someone like Yoshi P talk about how he's playing other games, and then in the process of playing other games, talk about some of the frustrations that he's had, and those frustrations being basically the same thing that players are experiencing. And yeah, ego developers, right? And I think that like it's okay to have an ego, but if you have a big ego for something, you have to be doing it right. Like the moment that you
basically in a nutshell, some devs are like mentors in Final Fantasy 14.
You do something and you have a big ego and it turns wrong, then everybody is there to shit on you. Like
true, I was very happy to see how open the devs were in Yoshi P and Amy.
They're enjoying it a lot. Whenever we have a developer or a person who is their understanding of the player base, and they get the same problems that the player base has. I think that's the most important thing, because
True.
one of the biggest issues is like sometimes developers don't play the game the way that players play the game.
Yeah, or
And
they
in
don't love the
process of
game.
not playing the games the way players play the game, guess what happens? A lot of those players experience things that the developers don't, and vice versa. That's pretty much all I've got for today, guys. I just wanted to come in and
Okay.
talk about.
Thanks, Asmongold. Yeah, I mean, we didn't really hear him talk much in the interview, other than ask the questions and like we see his reactions. But it was a good summary, and I like listening to his thoughts because he's usually like pretty on point with this stuff. I agree with a bunch of things he said there.